Hello and welcome to another gameplay review on the Virkayu gameplay channel. And in this one, we are having a look at buffed Kindred. Now, it's worth noting that Kindred wasn't exactly performing very well. The meta has not been kind to our favorite duo of death. However, they decided 10% AD buff ratio on the Q, plus a CDR buff onto the E, I believe 2 seconds. Yeah, 2 seconds. So more uptime always helps. More damage when you have a spammable ability in the Q also helps. The only issue is, will it be enough? And the increase in play rate has made this very difficult to sort of think about, because you go from a 2% play rate up to like a 6.5% play rate, and the win rate goes down. Mostly it's because people are not playing the champion in accordance with how you should be playing it, and not understanding the matchups either. So I decided, with the runes on your screen now, to go find games where Kindred popped off, or where Kindred had a nice comeback. Turns out that was actually kind of difficult. We had these supreme Snowball games from multiple servers. US, there was one game that was like 50 minutes, 18 kills and a pentakill. There was one comeback game, but I think I'm going to save that for either the main channel or maybe another one of these later on for the Kindred. I think that was a really nice game to piece together as well. But this one was just hilarious because of the bullying. Simply put, because of the bullying, the pathing, the way that this Kindred moved around the map and used that lead to Snowball was just lovely to watch. And I liked the angles and the idea of missing and skipping vision using your map mobility. So we'll talk about that. Firstly, as you can see, you have a variety of options. Bot lane, bot lane gap. You can go this 5 camp that this person did. You can go the 3 camp. In another video, we have a buff grump, just gank level 3. You have a lot of versatility in how Kindred clears. Now, obviously, Graves isn't what he used to be, but we know he's most likely always going to be that guy starting on the top side, sequencing down, and all these things factor into our early game pathing here as Kindred. Now, Orianna moves toward this. I feel like that's a little bit... I mean, that's great and all if you have no inclination about where the enemy jungler started. And in this case, we didn't. I mean, Graves most likely is going to be on the top side and starting red and going down, but we have no idea what the exact pathing is going to be, because he often goes leashless. So maybe he did do the blue just to match the Kindred's cadence, sequencing up so that they can meet. However, what this tells you already, ward, Graves hasn't shown the crab's about to spawn, which is great for Kindred. We're hoping for RNG blessings, please. Very nice. We get our blessings, Graves doesn't show up, which means Graves is bottom side. And then he hits the plant, which shows this. So we have all the information we need now. If Graves did show up and you have mid-prior, we can fight this and so on, but obviously with Kindred you have to be aware of, when to give things up and when not to. Now, this is important information. I'm trying to keep it a bit more fluid, but the pauses, I'm sorry, they're very important, because we need to discuss. He shows bottom side here, 24 CS. If he did 6 camps, he would have 28, because he just did the crab. So he's 24. Math. And that means, basically, that the Krugs are 100% up. So the Kindred doesn't waste time. Because normally junglers in this case would, go back to base, down to their Krugs, resequence. It's very boring. Kindred activates W after using Q to hop the wall. Wait for the cooldown. There we go. Smite. We slash it. Now, this is where you have to look at your lanes. Okay? If the top lane for the enemy was winning shoving down, this play is inherently more risky. Okay? Because you actually, it's not as risky because you can go from Krugs into the gank, but if your top laner doesn't have HP advantage, is counted, there's a huge wave, it's a riskier gank. And if you do this and die or create some issues, then the Graves will have beeline for your second tier Krugs, your second tier Raptors, sorry, first tier Krugs in this case, but second tier Raptors, and then a gank in the mid lane. But because our Nara's pushing, we can afford to take the Krugs, and you notice, leaving them, not finishing them. This is very important. The Kindred is not interested in causing this camp to reset. They want to leave it at level 1. So when Graves comes to sequence thinking, I get some juicy level 4 Krugs, or level 5 Krugs, it's not going to happen. So, nice little denial there. Nara is stunning the Volibear, as you can see. Kindred cuts the wave, which is what they were waiting for, so that the wave can actually tank a few shots. Volibear, tries to be a schemer, and Nara tanks it beautifully. Kindred plays it beautifully, and you dead. And I just rewinded a bit because we had crucial information we didn't talk about. The Graves shows mid lane for the gank here. Just because the Orianna is low, it's a fizz, you want to get it to Snowball, and moves up, okay? And then moves through this ward as well. So this is something you do have to look for, right? That's why I like pausing the screens, but oh well. Graves shows. Here we go, we get the kill, wonderfully played. And now Graves is going to show you're low. So you do have to be cautious. And this information, as you can see, isn't always noticed in the heat of the moment. You know, they did not fully expect the Graves to show up, but the Graves against a Gnar and a Kindred, oh, that Mountain Dread just shreds him. Volibear TP's into a wave, tanks it, and now gets chunked, so GG for him. Again, in this case, where is Fizz? Where is Graves? Can we get into the Raptor Pit for our mark or not? You get hit by a plant, Graves is up, Fizz is up, it's best simply not to do it. At this point, you have 1,500 gold as well, so we got a Noon Quiver Power Spike. Beautiful. From here, you assess your lane states, right? 35, 33, 1, 0, okay, bottom lane seems to be winning. Now, the worst thing I see from junglers is that they assume because bottom lane is winning, stonky, that they can ignore the lane. They assume that because top is winning, they can ignore it. Remember, there was a Korean YouTuber that was explained to me by a member of my Discord community last year sometime. When you have a lane that is a whole number, because they're ahead, you know, maybe like 1 kill, 2 kill, 3 kills, and you multiply that number, that lead grows very nicely, all right? It goes up. If you gank a losing lane that has 0 kills that's behind, you know, 3 ganks times 0 is still 0. So Graves picks himself up a kill, but, you know, by doing that, you give away information. At this point, the Graves' pathing is a little bit desperate. The Kindred has the same CS. Okay, Leona roaming, as we expect. We know Graves is going to respawn and come down to the side. We know Leona's in the area, plus the return of the enemy lanes. But because the Kindred went straight for the counter jungling, wall hopped, got the mark, and now can jump over the plant, we have the stun. We have the engage. Nice patience there to wait for that Leona bait. That should be a dead Leona. Boom. Well played. Sneaky pathing. Both the first recognition to hop this and dive, and then the second here, okay, he's dead, what can I take immediately? And now you can look for this tower dive. Now at this point, Graves actually could be flexing either direction. Because Kindred showed here, you could anticipate the arrival, and because Kindred showed that side, you could also assume Graves would go top side. So at this point, we have to play it by what we see, what we don't, but I think this is a free dragon. You have Galio rotation, we have a Kindred mark, also we have 2 marks, so we can actually wait for the spawn on the scuttle, there it is, because Raptor's down, Grump is down, there's only one place it can be, on the RNG crab, we take those. Thank you very much. Fizz goes onto the Orianna, disengages because the Kindred's in the area. Now at this point, don't feel the need to flex back into your red, okay? Bot lane's pushing, Affiliation's coming freshly juiced, you have a Galio, you're level 6, you're really fed, straight back into the lane. You notice the difference in pathing? You notice the difference in attitude in Korea here from other servers? This is just so much more fun for everyone. I mean, not for the bottom lane, but don't lose lane then. And what exactly can the enemy laners do when this is the situation? See now, we Snowball bottom lane who are winning by themselves, we Snowball top lane who are winning by themselves. Graves was behind in basic map cadence from the beginning. He went down, and Kindred went up, and then read the CS count immediately, knew exactly what was going on, cut the wave, and had a beautiful tower dive. Graves decided in desperation, these aren't up yet, I have to gank mid lane, and I have nowhere else to go but to try and counter gank top lane. It was a desperation play by great pathing from the Kindred. Now, once again, into the red, into the Raptors. We're pinging the mark there, but it doesn't look like something that's feasible for us. All right, so don't in for the mark. I mean, 4 marks is the beginning of the next level. We see here Graves shows top lane double buffs. Volibear's onto the Gnar, and there's a return gank Well, that was nice, and then Kindred can show up. Immediate reactive pathing. Hello. Goodbye. Oh man, when Kindreds have good pathing, when Kindreds can read enemy junglers, I love it. Because Graves decided, as we saw, you know, on the Kindred's route there, we were looking top lane. Kindred obviously went bottom side for the second tier red and Raptors. The blue is looking like something we would enjoy. I mean, I would enjoy it, you would enjoy it, they would enjoy it, everyone would enjoy it. But the thing is, the Graves anticipates that kind of greed and maybe some hesitancy just because of the nature of the back timings and so on. He decides, I'm going to go back in counter jungle, take a blue, And that's the blue you're seeing in this situation. His red plus the Kindred's blue. The problem with this counter jungling straight into this is if you make a misread, which is what the Graves did, anticipating this, the Kindred's gonna be following you, and now there's no camps to distract him. There's a singular focus. You took my stuff. I want that stuff back. And even though he's able to, you know, at least get something, the Kindred's right behind and can hold. I mean, push, I guess. And now we can do the Herald. There you go. Objective for ganks. Or ganks for objectives. Farming afterwards. And this is fine. Now watch this again. If Graves took his red Raptors, took your Wolves blue gank top lane, and then died, knowing that his blue buff and Grump was still up, and most likely having a Wolf respawn very soon, and the fact that mid is gankable, why exactly would I go topside? He wouldn't. So Kindred knows, alright, I just took the Herald, I can do the same exact pathing, which negates all vision. If there's any vision control here, you can simply cut it off. And that's why Kindred and anything with that map mobility is just so damn disgusting. I mean, what do you do if you're Graves when the Kindred's outplaying you like this? This is rough. And it's all from that immediate reaction, hey, you have 24 CS, not 28, and my Noah's pushing. I'll dive. Thank you very much. Now, this has eventually been taken. So this is at 7 now, level 7. But the Kindred decides, you know what, I'm not going to secure that because I see this guy over here. So what I'm going to do is head to the Raptor camp, cha-ching, and position myself for a counter gank. If nothing happens, that was a baby fizzled, I can go back top side, right? And then cut, oh no, oh no. That's a little disgusting and very disrespectful, but I like it because, as you can see, the Mark had not yet spawned onto the Krug camp. I was distracted by the disgusting nature of cutting the wave between two towers and killing the volley bear. You go do this as well because you can shadow, right, the gank. If something happens, we're right there forward. If she disengages nicely, if he throws the smallest fizz ult you've ever seen, we can just fall back here to the Mark spawn, and that should take us up to 7. Very nice. Fizz again there. Dragon is spawning. We got 2 towers top lane plus 2 kills on the volley bear. The gank eventually does happen, but it's an Orianna with phase rush. And you have no CC lockdown. That is not a good team composition. I mean, you have Leona, and you have Varus ult, which means he's going to be able to do a few things if he can get off the ground, but there's really nothing else you can do in terms of ganking as a Fizz Graves. It's all about prior map control and denial through experience. I like this, though. This is just funny. Just ignore the Krugs. They're in the way. Who needs them? Straight for the dragon. I mean, I would do the same. That's warded. Oh, hold up. Sorry. I was speeding through that. Here we go. So we're clearing the ward, but as soon as you clear the ward, you see the Fizz go in. No mana Orianna. Okay. Flash Q. Or Q flash, whatever your combination has to be. To get the ult, to get the execute. You hold that E for the R to finish, please. Way too many Kindreds decide to use the E execute in the ultimate. Careful. You can see why I like this game, because we have a lot of games that actually a lot of the last few gameplays were supremely, you know, I try to get a balanced approach where the jungler really controls the flow of the game and the game state is somewhat equal. But if a jungler is really doing their job properly and the laners are using that lead properly, the games are always going to be one-sided. If you can just have the first 3 rotations of pathing, you know, be so much better than the enemy jungler. Which is exactly what happened with this Kindred, you know? 2 dragons, a herald, and basically just complete disrespect of the enemy laners. And look at this. You see? This is the downside of this. This happens all the time, and in solo queue, this is probably realistic for you. You take all these towers with your top laner, and then they, you know, 2 people go and push the wave because there's no towers, and they just die and give shutdowns. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. It even happens in high elo because it's inevitable. You know, when you haven't taken, don't push up. It's a fed Kindred. So, to answer your questions, do I think the buffs did things for good Kindreds? Obviously. Any buff does good things for a main of a champion. The The uptime means for skirmishing, it's really nice to have, obviously not maxing E second, but the W, because uptime for Qs and things like that is also important for farming, as well as the fact that we have bonus AD ratios on it now, so it does hit harder, so having more Qs even within the W radius is something very nice. But the general uptime for the E is, it's not something that's going to change the way and revolutionize the way you fight with Kindred, but, 14 seconds versus 16 seconds is noticeable in mid-game, late-game fights with tankier targets, and you need to swap, you need to swap throughout the duration of the fight. Just keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. Yeah, Force Kraken Slayer. We have typical builds. Some of the Kindreds like the Shield Bow. You've got the Blade of the Rune King. You've got Bloodthirster enthusiasts. Really, the atomization problems for Kindred are with Volibear the same kind of thing. There's just so many options, and sometimes it can be difficult to know what feels the best. To Galio Kindred Fizz. It's disgusting. It's good. I like these stomps as much as the next guy because honestly, a stomp means someone is doing something very well and someone else on the team other than you is as well. I think this is basically inting though. It's basically inting. But hopefully it gives you a good idea of how you can use your tracking from a jungle perspective combined with the Kindred buffs into how do we flex with our marks and things like this, because you saw, the Raptors are down, we just took the mark from the Grump, we ganked bottom lane, we went to a Dragon, the Scuttle Crab spawned, that's the only place the mark can be, so hold it, do the Dragon first, don't deny yourself a free mark, that happens a lot as well. Here, we know the mark's going to be in the Krugs, we see Graves, as a jungler I want to shadow, make sure I can counter gank it, but at the same time I can counter jungle the Raptors. If you want to disrespect here, you can do so, and then you get the mark and the Krugs afterwards. So those are two marks a lot of Kindred players would not have actually secured. And not that it makes a huge difference in this kind of game, but, if you had a rougher game where you had maybe, 5 marks, ideally in that situation, from those kind of plays, and instead you didn't get those 2 bonus marks, you get 3, and that's, that range is so good for us. And now you activate your Herald, and you steamroller down mid lane. So I just did a video on the main channel. It took a lot of time. I wanted to do something a little quicker for the gameplay channel. Tomorrow we will have a more competitive game, and I will also have a longer form scaling comeback Kindred game as well, so we get a nice full picture, because the last video was also kind of snowbally, but I think with a Kindred you really have to look to take over the map. You have to look to snowball your PvP sense. I mean, look at this. If you're not doing that with a fed Kindred, don't play Kindred. Because you want to do the most damage, you want to dominate everyone, and you want to make it so that it feels helpless for them. Right? Right. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, coaching links are in the description below. We talk about all sorts of game states. New video on the main channel just released. Go have a look at that if you like advanced jungle pathing. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your weekends, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.